you, Brian. Passed on the trigger finger today. I think that's 2 weeks in a row. Hats off. Hats off. Yeah. So Friday. Jesus, come on. My lunch is in the camera shot. Not professional. So yeah, let's hang on a bit. Yeah. Bjorn is just. I mean, the guy just gave up. Basically, just really threw in the towel. You know. Don't know what to say about that, to be honest. It's rather disheartening. There's so much time just, giving up like that. Anyway, I'm sure I'll make it in. Harold, how are you? Jesus, Stephen Smith coming in for the, I guess, third place. Bronze medal in it. Bjorn not even on the podium this week. You better have Corona, because if not, there's no excuse. And I mean like late stage, like can't breathe, walk up the stairs type of Corona. Of course, we don't hope that Bjorn has Corona. That's terrible. But I mean, he better, or else this just doesn't make any sense. Yeah, that's true. No competition. I mean, that's always good. I mean, it's even when there's no competition, it's nice to be first, I guess. I mean, if there's no competition and you're second, then you might have a mental disorder, I guess. I don't know. We'll give it a few minutes, guys. Let people wander in, and then we'll get moving. So how's everybody's week going? Same as last week, probably. Same four walls. Anybody getting really tired of being quarantined with their family, or how's all that working out for everybody? KuCoin. So, look, I think all these unregulated exchanges at some point are going to face the same issues. I don't know. I think they, right now they have a registrar lock. They obviously have some civil lawsuits, several of them pending in different places around the world, including the U.S. It seems that the Singapore government has also frozen assets. Asset seizures usually mean that either they've pressed charges or they're going to. So I would think if it's not the end, it's the beginning of the end for KuCoin, at least in its current form. Maybe they're able to defeat some charges, sell off some assets. Maybe the name maybe somebody thinks the name has value and uses it. Hopefully the clients don't get that affected. Hopefully those asset seizures are able to make sure that they don't run away with assets. There's a lot of businesses that can simply be run in a bad manner, but they're not scam artists. They're not looking to steal people's money. And maybe that's the case here. I don't know enough to make comments on that, but I'm hoping that at least while they may have done things that were wrong according to the law, hopefully they're at least, stand-up individuals and they don't actually try and run off with client assets. Yeah, definitely not going to be the first instance of this. Definitely not the first instance of this happening. Won't be the last, that's for sure. But yeah, definitely a chance to go after some clients that are going to look for a new home. Though, when something like this happens, especially when someone didn't see it, that it could possibly happen, or understand that it could possibly happen, obviously their trust in crypto exchanges goes from, 100 to 0 rather quickly. So it can be difficult to obtain those clients, unless they maybe were trading at 10 different exchanges and understood the risks and now need to find a new place to be that 10th exchange or that third exchange, and that's a bit of a different story. Look, specifically commenting on this, I don't know if we're going to go down that road. The first marketing we're going to do is going to be testing, and it will be rather generic. But look, guys, this won't be the last opportunity we have to have a marketing campaign like this, so I wouldn't be too worried about it. What I would say is that, there's ways to play around with a bit and say, is your crypto exchange still alive? If not, then here's a good place for you, or something around those lines. So, well, I don't know if that's weird per se. Again, not much of a correlation really between tokens, utility tokens, or they're not really utility token because they pay revenue share. So I guess as long as that revenue share continues to be paid, there might not be too much of a movement. The first time it's not paid, that might change. Yeah, sure. But still, you say those type of campaigns can be tricky. We're not regulated everywhere. We onboard clients where we can, but we do onboard clients in certain places where licenses exist. But because we're not based there and we're not targeting those individuals, we can operate, right? So if we come out with a campaign that says we're regulated and we're not specific on where, and if we're specific on where, it kind of underpins really what you're trying to do with the campaign. And if you're not specific, you can run into issues. So you need to be careful with advertising. Unfortunately, when it comes to regulation, that's one of the biggest pains in the asses is trying to structure the way that you advertise your products, especially in the financial space, and trying to do so on a more global scale when you're not just doing regional advertising. Okay, guys, let's kick it off, and then we'll get back to the AMA at some point today, probably in the next 15, 20 minutes, maybe sooner, who knows. So if you haven't joined us before, my name is Kevin Murcko. I am CEO here at CoinMetro. I'm the only one in the office, basically because of Corona. But anyway, so we have an agenda we follow here every Friday at 3 p.m. local time. First thing on the agenda is market news. I have 10 pieces of market news that are thrown at me in a Google Doc that were put together by some of our elite Telegram members. So thank you guys and gals for that. I go over each one, I give a comment. So usually that comment's about a minute. If it triggers me, if it's about Binance, or they mention something about regulation that's inaccurate or whatever. Sometimes I get a bit triggered. I go off on a tangent. I tell a story about when I was a child or whatever. It takes a little longer than a minute, might take 2 or 3. Generally speaking, though, within 10, 15 minutes, market news is done. Then we move on to Kevin Explains Crypto. Again, I get a word, phrase, or something thrown at me. I just define what it means. Pretty simple. Number 3 on our list, live Q&A. That's right here on YouTube. You ask a question, I answer it. Simple. And then we move on to Reddit questions. So we have Reddit questions over the past week as well. This week, actually, we had no Reddit questions. That's one of the only times it's ever happened. So little break for me, a little more questions that come in live. So good for everybody. So here we go. Let's start with market news. Let's kick it off with number 1 of 10. Facebook initiated Libra Association concedes to regulators no longer permissionless. Geez, it's one of those moments on the show where I can sit back and give one of these like 6th grade laser background photos. I don't know how old everybody is here that's watching this, but when I was in 6th, I can remember my 6th grade photo shoot, and you could pick the background that was behind you for the photo shoot, and every boy picked the lasers. And you always sat like this for the photo, like some type of weird, tranquil awkwardness. Anyway, I have no idea how I got on that tangent, but if anybody has a 6th grade photo with lasers behind them, and post it on Telegram, man. Seriously, I will try to get one from me so you guys can meme the hell out of it and laugh at me because I looked ridiculous. Moving on. So I was going to say that I felt a bit of nostalgia because I could say I told you so on this one. It's always nice to have that I told you so moment. Facebook Libra will be done, but it will be done in a completely different manner than Facebook 1.0 because Facebook 1.0 was basically a sovereign currency. And no government was going to allow them to do that. Hence, that's what happened. Facebook came in, they've now changed it, and now it's structured completely differently. I don't think Facebook 2 they'll pull that off exactly how it's written either. But Libra 2, but Libra will be released. Mark my words. I think they may still need a few tweaks in there, though. The center of this is that instead of being now backed by a basket of fiat currencies, it basically is backed by a bunch of other digital tokens, which are denominated in different underlying values. So yeah, Bjorn's still not here. Crazy, man. Conspiracy theories start to come up to the surface, I imagine. Number 2 on a list of 10, Chinese crypto operators seeking mergers amid tightening regulations. So, Jesus, can I say I told you so twice? Holy Christ, it's like a setting precedent on this show. So yeah, Chinese crypto operators. So look, as regulations come in, there's usually 2 things that happen. Either closure, 3 things. Closure, merger, sold in pieces, right? Or just bye-bye. I mean, so I guess 4 things, really. Yeah, 4 things, right? That's about roughly 4 things. So as regulations start to come in, obviously many operators can adapt. Other operators don't want to adapt. Other operators just want a way out. So this is common, though. This isn't just crypto related. This is any type, especially businesses that were unregulated that now suddenly, it's not really suddenly, but suddenly find themselves having to be regulated. It can be difficult. If the bigger you are, the harder it is to go back and get yourself clean. And the smaller you are, the harder it is because you don't have money to do it. So if you start off on the wrong foot, no matter if you grow yourself to a behemoth or you're still too small to pay the bills, this is not a good thing for you. And it leads to one of those 4 scenarios. Number 3 on the list of 10, XRP and XLM are too centralized to be part of Morgan Creek's index. Murcko. So Mark Yusko, obviously an analyst. So hats off to Mark for a great job on this diamond in the rough. So look, part Morgan Creek did. Let me just, I'm going to pull up Morgan Creek's, hold on a second. Actually, in Morgan Creek, isn't that, that's Pompliano's thing, isn't it? I think it is. Yeah, it's Pompliano. Yeah. Okay, I'm just trying to see what they have in their index. Bitcoin, Ethereum, Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, EOS, Tezos, Dash, Cardano, Ethereum Classic, and Zcash. So, to be quite honest, I wouldn't say that either of those don't necessarily fit in what they already have in their portfolio. But I would say that XRP and XLM are very similar, and they're dissimilar to many of the other pieces that sit inside of that portfolio already. So look, what does that mean for XRP? Nothing really. What does it mean for XLM? Well, nothing really. XLM and XRP started out with kind of the same vision. They wanted to basically help banks. XLM, however, went on a tangent and wanted to help the unbanked rather than the banks. However, so I don't think they really care about not being in a portfolio. They didn't, well, in the terms of XLM, they didn't create the asset to create a reserve. XRP did, but their reserve still is pretty healthy, and they have a lot of partners that are banks. So I'm not sure they care about Morgan Creek Digital Index. Moving on, number 4 on the list of 10, BTC price aggregator Ubit Hunter fails to entice crypto fans. Okay, let's take a look at this story because I don't even know who this is. Anybody know who Ubit Hunter was? So it's a Bitcoin price aggregator. Price aggregator simply means takes the price from many different places, combines it, gives you the best price. Aggregation of price. Built by P2P trading platform Ubit, has proven to be a dud. The tool is purposely styled on the lines of Skyscanner. Okay. Yeah, look, guys, I think you're still talking about, in a mature market, tools like price aggregation, especially in an OTC market. And I know I've said this a lot on the show, but your first time listening, or maybe you just don't pay attention to me and you just stare at the lovely t-shirts I wear and don't really hear anything unless Binance comes into the picture or something. I don't know. But if you've listened to this show before, you know that I say this many times, that we're in an immature market. And in a mature market, aggregation tools like this can be useful. We're in an OTC market. OTC market, everything's OTC. When somebody says they run an OTC desk, I literally start to make a noose and get ready to hang myself. And just waiting for them to say OTC one more time in our 3-minute conversation, because they've only said it 17 times and my trigger point is 18. Never gotten to that 18 yet, still here, so rock on. But the whole market is OTC. It's over the counter. There's no centralized price point. Now, in mature markets that are OTC, FX, for example, it makes a lot of sense to have a tool that aggregates price, because it allows you to see a more macro picture of what the average price, the mean price is across the entire market. But when you have an immature market where Bitcoin traders like to go to awesome platforms like Binance Futures to trade in and out of their portfolios, well, price aggregation, they don't care because they look at one price, and that's the price of the platform they're on. So I think, and generally speaking, there's no reason for them to look at other price unless they're arbitraging or they're going between. And even then, they don't want to see a mean price. They want to see prices at all the different exchanges. So it was probably a dud before it even launched. Suffice it to say, though, as the market does get more mature, these type of tools will be things people look for, true traders look for. Number 5 on the list of 10, China sees new blockchain innovation alliance with Huawei and Alibaba as members. They see new block, so they see it. I don't know if they're part of it, but they definitely see it. It's there. Anyway, look, I just had a big discussion the other day about innovation. And I don't know if anybody's going to agree with me here, but my take on innovation is there's no such thing as innovation. Innovation is like a Fibonacci sequence. If you don't know Fibonacci, look it up, mathematician. These things, it always makes me wonder whether Fibonacci just came up with the sequence based on studying something in nature, or he devised the sequence and then found out that his rather simple sequence actually mimics itself in nature. The latter would be much more impressive. But anyway, Fibonacci, basically, just to cut it down, starts at 0, then starts to go to 1, and then basically every number thereafter is the sum of the two numbers before it. So 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, da 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 da. Okay, that's the Fibonacci sequence. The cool thing about, sometimes I don't even know how I get to these things. The cool thing about Fibonacci is that in nature, the Fibonacci sequence is all around us. How plants form, the length of branches versus the length of the longest branch versus the height of the tree, the width of the leaf versus the all these different things come down to Fibonacci sequences. It simply means that in nature, basically, as things grow, cells grow, et cetera, they grow in a certain sequence, right? Starts at nothing, then there's 1, then it doubles, then the next sequence is basically a sum of the first 2, and that kind of makes sense, right? If you think about it, it's rather simplistic, even though you can break it down and make it sound really unsimplistic. Jesus, I got there from the new. Oh, innovation, yeah. So innovation to me is like a Fibonacci sequence. That means that we start with almost nothing. You start with nothing. Then somebody goes, what if we did this? Then somebody goes, what if we did that? And eventually the sum of all these different small little changes looks innovative. I mean, if you took a time machine from the year 10 to the year 3000, there'd look like a lot of innovation moving around. But if you were able to fast track and see every single change from 0 to 3000, it would look a lot less innovative. There still are things, though, that, kind of wow, airplanes and, that are like, that where there's that moment that seems that it's very innovative. Anyway, back to the story. China sees new blockchain innovation alliance. Okay, so another blockchain innovation alliance. Great. Who cares? Look, guys, blockchain is not that innovative. I could care less if every place in the world uses blockchain. Every company in the world uses databases. There's no standardization in databases, even though everybody thought there would be 30 years ago. There still isn't. There's not going to be any standard in DLT for a very long time. So if your company out there is building, blockchains for healthcare and blockchains for whatever, good luck. It's going to be a long road. Eventually, there will be an Oracle and there will be a whatever that will take over the market, but there still will never be a standard, more than likely. So who cares? I think from the financial side, though, it's the one use case we've proven, and it's just a lot more. It has the ability to change the world now, right? So anyway, moving on. Number 6 on the list, then, gold and S&P 500 stay highly correlated to Bitcoin during crisis. Yeah, I talked about this before. Look, one of the major reasons why institutional investors, and just to throw this out there, hedge funds, guys, by definition, are not institutional investors. Institutional investors are sovereign wealth funds, pension funds, etc. Hedge funds are a bunch of dudes sitting in a garage who say, bro, let's take other people's money and make money on it. That's a hedge fund, okay? I mean, they might get a little bit more sophisticated than that on Wall Street, but to be honest, not much more. The garage just turns into an office that costs more than the garage on a monthly basis in rent. Much more, actually. That's significantly more. So most institutional money decided to get into Bitcoin, and there's not much of it percentage-wise, hate to say it. But most of that money decided to get, and percentage-wise compared to other markets, not compared to Bitcoin, decided to get into Bitcoin mainly because they thought it was an uncorrelating asset. That in times of crisis, more than likely, it wouldn't correlate to the S&P 500. I mean, that's essentially like, it will not correlate. And I think they've basically been proven wrong. That doesn't mean that can change. What it means is what it's always meant. In times of crisis, people run to cash. Where do they primarily go in cash? The US dollar. And what happens, if it's a time of crisis, look, right now, if you're suffering in the corona pandemic and you've lost your job, you have no idea when your income may come back. You have no savings and you can't pay your bills. And the government gives you some money. Are you telling me the first thing you're going to do is buy Bitcoin? Of course not. What fucking moron would go and buy Bitcoin with money that they need to live, right? Staples, consumable commodities become the thing that people buy with money when there's a crisis. They go to cash, they buy consumable commodities. Tuna fish, ammunition, lentils, and beans, right? Those things can do a 10x. Bitcoin won't in a time of crisis. That's what we've proven to this point. And that raises a lot of questions about what's going to happen. You saw Greystone, whatever the name of the Grayscale, right? Just published that they got 500 million more into their funds, into their portfolio in the first 3 months, the first quarter, 2020. Everybody's jumping up for joy and saying, see, crisis, schmisis, Bitcoin. What they don't realize is most of that's hedge fund money. Most of it is hedge fund money, so it's third-party money. So at the end of the day, there's a lot of retail money in there. Those guys invested other people's money into Bitcoin and the price just tanked. They're not going to make performance fees for the foreseeable future. How can they maintain those performance fees? Hopefully, well, they got to pile in more money. They got to cost average and hope that a small jump in Bitcoin again, even though it doesn't fully recover from its highs, will mean that they're back in profitability overall. It's simple cost averaging. It is not good news. It is basically them kicking in that first crisis lever, and that's cost averaging. So again, like most of the people do in this industry, when there's any type of news, they make it sound good, when in reality, not so good. Number 7 on list 10, CZ, adorable Peter Schiff is one of the best advertisers for Bitcoin. Yeah, well, this is, I guess, kind of like a... what does it say, Daniel? According to the data provided, Brian Armstrong, CEO America's #1 exchange, Coinbase, the number of 1,200 prize million quadrupled this week. Yeah. So what? There obviously are people that don't need the money. So, I guarantee you those people have food at home, or whatever. They're not starving. They're not really in a crisis. They just got some free money from the government. So that's a different story. But anyway, plus there's no way to know if that's actually correlated, to be quite honest. I mean, 1,200 is a rather round sum. Anyway, I'll get back to that. Let me get back to my CZ thing here. So adorable Peter Schiff. I don't think he's a good advertiser for Bitcoin, because I think most of the people that look and watch and read Peter Schiff generally have the same mindset as Peter Schiff. And I hate to say it, but many of the things he says haven't truly been proven wrong yet. So I would flip that around and say CZ is probably adorable and one of the best advertisers for every mainstream investor that says don't invest in crypto. If you're a guy that says, watch out with Bitcoin, you might get screwed, you might have a picture of CZ on your wall, just maybe, right above your bed, nice big matte poster, CZ in a hoodie, that probably scares you to sleep at night. So number 8 on a list of 10, Ripple granted exemption from holding a license in Singapore thanks to frictionless, remittanceless solutions. Yeah, this basically means they're not a third party in the transaction, so there's no reason for them to get licensed. Also, keep in mind that you don't need a license in Singapore unless you process more than 35 million a year. So could be a little bit of a loophole there. Number 9, Dutch Bitcoin companies face millions in unusual AML fees. Unusual. It actually says unusual. I talked about this a lot as well in the past. Exchange business models that are exchange only will go out of business because revenues will fall and compliance fees will skyrocket. Now, what they consider to be unusual, I don't even have to read the article. It's not unusual. It's not unusual at all. They may be somewhat artistic or somewhat abstract because the regulator doesn't understand completely about AML on chain, but they're not unusual. They are going to be derived from standard AML laws that if you operate this type of business, you should have already known, and it's your fault. And that's simply that. Number 10 on the list of 10, stablecoins could be Ethereum's ace against Bitcoin's weak hand. I would say that's partially correct. Ethereum just having the ability, this DeFi kind of ability, the token ability, smart contracts, all those things are so much more valuable than Bitcoin's core tech, because it's Bitcoin's core tech, which is essentially a blockchain, or, well, it's a distributed ledger. Blockchain, by the way, wasn't mentioned in the Bitcoin white paper. I think I've said that a million times on here, but so stablecoins, stablecoins are something that the mainstream market can use. Banks can use, central banks can use. Again, you have the FSB and all, and this is not the first time. Financial Stability Board and other similar organizations, BIS, Bank of International Settlement, around the world, kind of shitting on stablecoins, saying that one large centralized stablecoin like Libra 1.0 could basically bring down a government. And it's a bit far-fetched, but it's possible. It definitely could provide instability in the currency markets, and instability in the currency markets, my friends, can lead to quite some unrest, and can crush economies, especially smaller economies that have their currencies pegged to those large behemoth currencies. Think of all the currencies that peg to the US dollar. Think what would happen if the US dollar truly did go to shit. It wouldn't just be the US economy. It would literally be almost every major economy that holds debt in US dollars, as well as any economy that does business with oil, gold, or any commodity priced in US dollars, even pork bellies and orange juice, orange futures, etc. There's a lot, and every country that pegged their value to the US dollar would be screwed. That's why the US dollar isn't going anywhere. Don't let any of these weirdos tell you different. In our lifetimes, collectively, and maybe somebody on here could be 1 year old, I don't know, but in our lifetimes, don't expect the US dollar to crumble. Yeah, I guess that tightens up the news for us. Look at that. Took a little bit longer than usual. I got it off on a few tangents. I apologize for that. I'm going to run into Kevin Explains Crypto, and then we'll jump into Ask Me Anything here. How's that? So Kevin Explains Crypto term this week, Oracle. So not the private company headed by my buddy Larry, but an Oracle. And here we're talking about oracles in terms of crypto, or cryptocurrency mainly, or blockchains, really. We're talking about blockchains, DLT, and oracles. So what is an oracle? So an oracle, when you talk about DLT or blockchain, is essentially let's call it a piece of, could be software, mostly software, could be an app that basically communicates outside information and makes it readable to a smart contract. So I'll give you an example. Let's say you create a smart contract. Smart contract is nothing more than an if this, then that, right? If this happens, then that should happen. Smart contract could say, for example, if there's more than 200 sunny days this year, double your investment in corn. Okay, there you go. Now, how would the smart contract know that there's been more than 200 days worth of sunshine? The blockchain cannot, that smart contract has no way to outwardly communicate or receive data. The oracle can collect data. This can be a standard type of database. It can be some type of script. It can be whatever. It collects data from some source, maybe an API from some agricultural institute. Finds out that we now have had more than 200 days worth of sunshine this year. It communicates that data back to the smart contract. The smart contract can read that data. It then understands that it needs to action its trigger, and it doubles down on corn. There you go. That's what an oracle is in terms of DLT and blockchain. One of the more famous companies that deals in oracles is Chainlink. So shout out to all the, what are they called? Link Army or Link Soldiers, or I forget what they're called, but shout out to the Link guys. By the way, guys, Link Euro pairing on CoinMetro, the first to do it. Coinbase did it afterwards. Just thought I'd let you know. So moving on, let's get into live Q&A. And yeah, no Reddit questions this week, so nice and easy for me. That's cool. Let's see, scrolling up here. Brian saying, I hope they take Binance down after KuCoin. Binance will be a much larger investigation. And I haven't seen, as of yet, any major, there is a class action lawsuit currently with Binance named in the US. But I would wait for precedent on that one. But I'm telling you guys, and I've said this for a long time, and I know when I said it a year ago or 2 years ago, by now people are like, yeah, whatever, not going to happen, too big to fail or whatever. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. It is only a matter of time. That doesn't mean that, the whole thing blows up and they all go to jail. It means one of those four things that I currently said about exchanges in China. which basically means sold off in pieces, sold off completely, closed. What was the fourth one? Operated by somebody else, maybe? Merger. Yeah, merger. James Harden. Yeah, well, I think today actually I might shave the sucker down because my wife kind of doesn't like it, which, in quarantine where it's can't really. I did get a haircut though, so I mean, that was my accomplishment outside of the house this week or this week. Do you consider to see him in shows like Ivan on Tech? Maybe. I think a lot of times those things are overrated. Obviously, the guy gets a bit of viewership. I like Ivan. I met him. We had a nice conversation in Hong Kong recently. He's a good kid. Still has a bit to learn, I think. But I generally like him. And I would say that yeah, maybe. I mean, influencers would be part of a strategy, that's for sure. Maybe not in our primary strategy. I'd rather get on there for merit rather than payment. I think that would go a much longer way. Ginger Croc, hi Kevin, hope you're well. What do you think? Why do you think we're only seeing 68 million on the XTM sell books? Aren't there over 200 million circulating? Interested to know your thoughts. Well, yeah, there are, but not everybody's active. Some people simply just haven't placed any types of orders into that book. They just have the token sitting in their wallets, right? So they're just not actively traders. They might have not even logged into CoinMetro for quite some time. So yeah, I think it's just a matter. Yes, there are a good amount circulating, much more than what's sitting in the sell book. What that says is lots of people aren't looking to sell, which I would say generally is a good thing. Yeah, that's true. Earl's just coming in saying there's 18 million BTC, but there isn't 18 million on the order books. Yeah, I mean, some people simply aren't actively in the market. I mean, we could say the same thing about USD or anything else, right? Not everything is always in the market. What are your thoughts on the central bank's recommendation to ban stablecoins? Hey, Graham. It was the Financial Stability Board. One of the possible scenarios was a complete ban. It wasn't a recommendation. It was one of the possibilities, right? Out of like 10. So we talked about this before. Look, I try to be the guy that can, wear lots of different hats when I have a discussion about something. I like to be the guy that can get in a debate and argue both sides, right? And try to win on both sides, right? Taking away my opinion, right? Out of the equation. So when it comes to this, the Financial Stability Board makes a lot of sense. And they also say things that I think they're overshooting, right? What they're saying is essentially is that if you have an entity, a large entity with potentially billions of users, a WeChat, a Facebook, etc., a Google, that creates a centralized payment instrument that they yield lots of power that currently is only yielded by sovereign governments, central banks, etc. Now, you can argue that nobody should yield that power, and that argument has some merit. It also there's also parts of it that don't make any sense, because to have a currency, you do need governance, and in our entire modern history, governance has come from centralization of power. You may not agree with centralization of power, but we have proven nothing else works up to this point. Not that what we do now is perfect, but we haven't proven that anything else works. And this is a big thing to prove, and we haven't done it yet. So I would say that I think centralized, something like a Libra One is never going to pass. Things like Tether, which are relatively small in scale, will be forced to regulate. They will be forced to regulate, just like an EMI, an electronic money institution. They are essentially issuing e-money. So they will be forced to regulate. If they don't regulate, they will be attempted to be shut down. They will be banned. There will be pushes to make all gatekeepers, regulated exchanges, wallets, etc., to not do business with these tokens. There will be black markets, as always, just like there's black markets for US dollars in Venezuela and around and Zimbabwe and other places of the world. But generally speaking, they will be shut down, right? Well, not shut down is the wrong word. You can't really shut them down, but they will be obfuscated. tried to say that word earlier today on Telegram. I don't know what's wrong with me. So they will be hidden, basically, right? So I think a lot of things they say make sense. Some don't. I do think central bank digital currencies will happen. I've always said they'll happen. I said in 2017 they would happen, and they will happen. It's been accelerated now. I do think that we will see countries start to look more and more into this. It just makes sense. That doesn't mean that central banks will issue those to common people. At first, they will probably be used to clear between other central banks. Eventually, once that test is done, they may use them for government services like Social Security, et cetera. Except to the end user, it won't look any different. People will just they may still get a check in the mail. They may still get they will still get direct deposit. Simply the mechanism by which they do that will be on an immutable digital ledger. So I wouldn't expect too much change to the UI UX of money, but the underpinnings will change. And for the most part, they're already digital. So I would say that those recommendations are sound. I think they covered a lot, not recommendations, but those possibilities. They've covered most of the possibilities. I don't think we're going to see an outright ban, but what we will see are restrictions to how, look, it is not a good idea to allow anyone to create money out of thin air. It's simply not. That can lead to a lot of problems and unjustness, that's for sure. How do you value those monies? What if those monies are used for not in the common good? What if those monies are valued in one place and not another one? How do you keep track of those things? Anyway, there's lots of different questions. So I don't think that's the right way to go. So there has to be some type of frameworks. So yeah, we talked about this, Daniel saying, according to data provided by Brian Armstrong, of course, he is the CEO. So number of exchange has quadrupled. So I would say, look, I don't know what that means, because maybe they had 1,000 exactly $1,200 deposits, and now they had 4,000, which doesn't really mean anything. Like I said, some people, look, you can get that money if you're a married couple making up to $198,000 a year in the US. If you live in, Montana and you make $198,000 a year, you're doing pretty good, bro. That 1,200 is meaningless to you, or 2,400 or whatever. If you really need that money, though, I'm telling you, you're not putting it into Bitcoin. That's for sure. That was my point. There are so few crypto news that leave Kevin impressed. Yeah, sorry. I mean, it's just age, I think, right? As you get older, shit just stops being impressive. That's actually kind of sad. I can get excited about things, but impressed. I'm the type of guy, and I don't want to, this is going to come off the wrong fucking way, but I'm the type of guy, like, I've been to a lot of landmarks that people, like, literally people tell me, oh my God, I went to the Taj Mahal and it was like a life-changing experience. I mean, I saw it and I just envisioned all the hardship of whatever. I went to the pyramids and it was like, Jesus, oh my God. I don't do that shit. I've been to many places. I've been to the Taj Mahal, Grand Canyon, whatever, the Eiffel Tower. Everybody's been to the Eiffel Tower, but you get my point. I've been to a lot of places around the world, seen a lot. And this is what I do. I get there and I go, and I move on. That's it. So what? Right? I'm not the type of person to get impressed rather easily. And that doesn't mean I'm not a perfectionist at any way. Well, I can be a perfectionist, but I'm not perfect by any way, shape, in any stretch of the imagination. And I make my mistakes, that's for sure. But it's just hard for me to be impressed. It's just, I don't get that emotion. It's like, I think it was Louis C.K., the comic, who has a bit where he basically talks about how people misuse words, right? Like the word awesome, like what the word awesome actually means versus how we use it in everyday life, that we completely dismiss the true meaning of these words. Like awesome literally means like, life-changing event. We say it because, this hamburger is awesome, bro. I say awesome a lot. So, and I think impressed to me is a very serious word. It means that I'm seeing something that has just changed the way I look at things. I don't know if that's ever happened to me in my life, even as a young kid. Do you think people should be paying more attention to Parsec on CoinMetro? Volume and price is low, but they seem to be a lot of good news partnerships. Yeah. Look, I think long-term Parsec is a great business, to be quite honest. I always have. I think they've been focused on partnerships. I think they're going to start moving into more, PR. Obviously, everybody's suffering some liquidity issues here and there. Everybody's raising funds, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, I think it's a great project. This is not investment advice. I'm not saying, dump all your money into Parsec. What I'm saying is that yes, I think eventually they're going to get the exposure they deserve. And when that happens, that's going to mean more eyes on the token. And usually what that means is more demand. I think it's a great I think it's a great opportunity, to be quite honest. And I think that they're getting a lot of exposure, but the exposure's it doesn't focus on the token, right? So I don't even know if a lot of the people know that there is a token for Parsec, and I guess maybe that should change, and eventually it has to, and it will. And yeah, that can only be good for people that are in. So how do you feel about the April 20 marketing campaign? Excited? Will it coincide with platform updates? Yeah, look, I'm excited for a new chapter for the business, which essentially means, we're moving forward and getting into this growth phase. We've had our guy Morteza, our digital guy. We have a new content girl. I think head of Jesus, I don't know. I think it's head of content manager. I don't know. Whatever. I don't know the title, but she's awesome. Morteza's awesome. Everybody's awesome. Oliver, all these guys have been working on this marketing campaign. We've had a lot of good conversations, a lot of good talks, landing pages coming together, et cetera. So yeah, I'm excited to move into the next realm. That's for sure. Will it coincide? Yeah, there's always going to be platforms. So yes, it will coincide with updates because we're always having updates. More updates to come, that's for sure. Any updates on faster payments? Update I can tell you is that I got word back from the provider, and basically that word was that they have altered their own risk policy so they can onboard us officially, and he's waiting on board approval. He should have news next week. Once they get that news, we will be onboarded, and I would say within hopefully 2 weeks of that onboarding date, pounds would be the first thing we roll out. Shortly after that, euro, using that system rather than as well as LHV. And then we'll start the journey down that debit card road. And I think right around that same time, Australian dollars and possibly Swedish krona as well. We'll see him take advantage of the closures of exchanges like KuCoin. Yeah, we discussed this already. There's, it's not the easiest thing to take advantage of, because you have to be careful on how you advertise things like that. And on the second hand, if you're a newbie and you got screwed by an exchange, you hate exchanges. If you are not a newbie and you understand that this could happen, you may simply might not want to bring a new exchange into your portfolio. Maybe you just reallocate over your other accounts. Maybe you simply don't want to go through the hassle of opening another account. There's a lot of barriers there. But I think over time, we will take advantage of these things. This is not the first, won't be the last. That's for sure. And right now, the closure hasn't happened yet. KuCoin is still operational, guys. So I would say that we still have a bit of time before the actual bomb implodes and people realize what they're dealing with. Any news about new banking partner? Yeah, so we have several new partners that are coming on board over the next 1 to 5 weeks between banks, PSPs, EMIs. So all that's in process. That's one of my major focuses. On the biz dev side, I'm having a call actually tonight with a company in the US that does banking as a service, trying to get USD, ACH deposits, et cetera, for the US market. That would be quite huge. Also having discussions openly with different partnerships, perhaps different platforms that aren't crypto platforms, but platforms for integration, as well as a few other things to enable us to get some more viewership. So yeah, definitely nothing that I can give you full. A lot of these things, guys, when it's biz dev, always start with NDAs, unfortunately. And that's good for us and them as well, even though we can't talk all about it. But there's a few things in the works. And I think some of those will really start to kick off once we have a certain amount of active clients. So as we do marketing, we're going to get more and more information, because I'll be able to give you some more tidbits as we get more users on the platform, which will then trigger some of these possible partnerships. Yeah, Daniel. Yeah. I don't know what's up with that word. It's like the OBF, just obfuscate. I don't know. Then I'm seeing obscure in my head when I'm trying to say obfuscate. Anyway, it's like there's like 3 or 4 words in the English language that I just can't say correctly for some reason. It's one of them. Remarketing in the incoming weeks, you'll be able to try hitting newbie circles. Will you be trying to hit newbie circles, existing crypto enthusiasts, any specific avenues? We have different subsets, different marketing ideas, different copy we will use for all those, for newbies, for existing crypto enthusiasts, for traders, for non-traders, for investors, for passive income seekers, etc. What are your thoughts about price of Bitcoin right now? To be honest, haven't been paying all that much attention to the price of Bitcoin. One of the things you learn over time as an investor, especially when you hold an asset, is don't look at the price all the time, because over time it's relatively meaningless. So yeah, what do we have? So we're over 7,000 US, I guess. Look, guys, I would say that I would be very cautious. The higher we go here would probably, on my side, be more of a trigger point to sell. I would not be looking to buy. I would not, if I was scalping or I was going even long term right now. When I say long term in crypto, that could be a week, a month, whatever. But longer term, I should say, I would be looking at spots to enter, to sell, not to buy. I don't think people understand the implications so far of this pandemic as it has on the economy of the world. I think people are starting to realize, but they don't even see the tip of the iceberg yet. They see a snowflake before it hits the tip of the iceberg, and that iceberg's quite massive. And depending on how governments handle this, it can lead to a much bigger mess. That iceberg can melt and basically drown everyone if it's not handled correctly. Or they could chip off pieces and it could crush economies around the world. So enough with the analogies. But my point is to say that I would not be on the buy side. That's right now. And I just wouldn't. There's too much probability. Look, if you have money in Bitcoin right now and you're a maximalist, at some point you need to eat. At some point you need to, if your income dies out, your consulting gigs, whatever, and for people that can generally work from home or have the ability to, it hasn't yet affected them. The longer this goes, however, more and more companies begin to get affected. So what are your thoughts? What are your expectations in volume for the end of 2020? Expectations, we already talked about this. I think I'd like to see 500K to 1 million in sustainable daily volume at a minimum. I will adjust that as we go along. Once we see the first 30 days of advertising and I can see the numbers, and then 60 days, by 60 days in with the numbers, I think I'll be able to give you a pretty accurate idea of where we're sitting by the end of the year. And when do you honestly believe XM is going to start climbing and CoinMetro gaining some attention? Well, marketing, obviously. Marketing will help. That's for sure. So, we've been able to sustain this business and we're still here without spending any money on marketing and obviously making mistakes. I'll be the first one to tell you we made mistakes, that's for sure. Though I think we did a lot of things right as well. I don't know if we made more mistakes than the things we did right, or we did more things right than we made mistakes. But I'll be the first one to tell you there were mistakes made, but we're still here. The business itself is strong. Over time, more and more people are interested to invest in stable businesses, not meaning that they're profitable, simply businesses that have shown that they can maintain themselves, which we've been able to do. I do think we have a product suite, even now, before we finish with all our tweaks, bells, and whistles, that can compete with almost anybody on the market. And we have things no one else has. And a little bit of marketing will go a long way. So I think 2020, by the end of 2020, we may call 2020 CoinMetro's first kind of real year of operation. I think 2020 could be our year, and 2021 we could take by storm if we position ourselves correctly through the end of this year. And I think we're on track to do that. Even with Corona, even with everything else, I think we can take advantage of some of the aspects of this new economy and thrive. Tough question, I think. If you weren't involved in CM, would you invest in XCM? What would stop you currently? Sure, I'll try to answer that honestly. Look, this is a hard question to answer because obviously I own a lot of XCM, and I've bought some as well, aside from what I own. I've sold and bought some. Haven't sold. I've basically just playing in the market, basically to test, right? But I have been on the sell side a few times, not much at all in any term. But I've also bought some fresh euro, So if I was outside of CM, but I was in the crypto industry for doing whatever else, I think regulated exchanges in different regions of the world will be a place I'd be looking. I have to be honest, in terms of investment, I would always look for equity. However, I would look at tokens to support my portfolio as I'm waiting for that equity to actually mature. And I think regulated exchanges would be a place I would look. Now, looking at regulated exchanges that exist in Europe, for example, Bitstamp, Bitpanda, I guess Coinbase in the UK. Coinbase doesn't have his own token. I think Bitpanda, I don't know if they have their own token, actually. Bitstamp doesn't, as far as I know. So perhaps, especially, I'm the type of guy that would have resting orders. I probably would have picked some up when it hit 1 cent a few times. And I would even be cost averaging a bit as it sat below 2. But if I was outside of crypto entirely, no. And the reason is I wouldn't know it existed. Just being perfectly honest, there's been no marketing yet. If I was outside of crypto, still in FX, and I had no interest in crypto, I don't think I would know CoinMetro exists. So there would be no reason for me to buy XCM or anything else for that matter. Can I use a debit card internationally? Yes. Can I use euros on the debit card because I don't? Yes. The debit cards will be, look, there's no debit card in the world that's actually denominated in crypto. All debit cards are denominated in major fiat currencies, USD, euro, pound, whatever, or local currencies as well, local markets. But major debit card programs are denominated in US dollar, pound, or euro. What we do, or what any company does on their end, is they create an interface where you can spend the crypto because the crypto gets a face value applied to it by way of a current market rate. And then once the value is spent, that crypto is converted. So yes, you can spend in euro, no problem. Any new projects, IEOs on the horizon? Not currently, no, not something that focused on at the moment. But I think the marketing will bring us some possible direct issuances. Sorry. What do you think were the 2 biggest mistakes? Ooh, that's a tough one. Biggest mistake, obviously, would be not getting into euro, not converting into euro all of our ICO funds faster. Now, we had always planned to do it. It just took us too long to get bank accounts. We should have focused as well at the same time of opening up multiple PSP accounts. It would have been faster, and we could have gotten to euro quicker and had some extra money. So that was probably the first large mistake and probably one of the biggest. I think the other one was probably communication. And that's outward communication to our clients, understanding what they wanted, to not have delays and make mistakes on what we were developing, and inward communication without getting siloed so that everybody knew what everybody was doing and we could streamline better. So yeah, I think conversion and then communication, probably 2 biggest mistakes. What if marketing won't be enough? Game over? Nope. Marketing at one point will be enough. Look, guys, I ran FXPig with only 2 people for 6 years. I can run CoinMetro with minimal people if I have to. We can keep most of the staff that we have right now and just maybe downsize a bit on development and downsize a bit on support and simply push. Look, there's always a way. What I can tell you is CoinMetro is like my life. It's like my baby. And I say that in every sense of the word. I didn't give up on FXPig during tough times. I've never given up on a business. I've never been a guy that gets into a business with a strategy to sell it for billions, nor have I gotten into a business and thought, if shit gets tough, I'm just going to give up. I can tell you right now, you can choose to believe me or not. I guess at this point, you have to believe it a little bit. We had a year with no funding and we made it. I'm okay in tough times. I will make it through. No matter how tough shit gets, I will be here. Maybe your support request will take a bit longer. Maybe we won't have so many updates on development, maybe whatever for some time, but we just keep on moving, guys. We keep on moving as we can. You adapt and you move. That's it. That's all you can do. I don't take I don't take giving up as an option. If I'm dead, maybe I give up. Yeah, Musab. That's correct. Is the price floor? Can the price floor be used in marketing? So there's nothing inherently wrong with the price floor because it's a utility asset. It is not a regulated asset. It is not a security. We do not need a license in order to have any type of price floor built in. However, I wouldn't say that it's the best thing for us to use in marketing. One, I'm not sure people would generally understand what that meant. Those that did understand what it meant could be turned off at the same time they're turned on about it, mainly because they could say, why would they need the price floor? Do they expect it to go there? What happens if it sits there for a long time? Will there actually be buyers, understanding that if you buy at 1 cent, yes, you're getting a good price, but there's no volatility below. So will there be buyers at 1 cent after everybody buys at 1 cent? So yeah, I would say we would probably shy away from using that in marketing, but maybe there's a way to use it without completely using the word price floor, for example. Any news on Sandbox Martin? So we haven't gotten the official word of the approval in the Sandbox licensing, but had a discussion with the president of the CMA just recently on Zoom. So I guess China knows about it now. So there we go, already doing some marketing. But he said, yeah, things are a bit slower. They're all working from home. Everybody knows the drill, but that essentially we're done. It's done. They just haven't officially released the letter that things have been approved. I think I did mention to you guys that we're pushing now to get that sandbox extended to 2 years. That's going to make a huge difference for the type of assets we can offer. It's big news. It means we can do equities, convertibles, because we have more time to be able to offer those type of perpetual assets. So the news is that we're still waiting, but I think next week we might get some news, if not the week after, but we're close. I know that we're pretty much done. We're just waiting on the official word. And then on the other side, we still need bank accounts linked up to these entities to be able to start the sandbox. I'm working now to get that done. Banks, unfortunately, in Montenegro are not really responding, but I have some PSPs, EMIs that seem to be willing to take on the task. So that'll take a few weeks to get that set up from now. But generally, I think, and we need the Montenegro government kind of to be back in office because we need them to help. They need to do some PR. We want to do some PR behind their PR, et cetera. I don't expect that to happen till probably June. So we may be postponed till June, regardless if it gets approved. CoinMetro has the option, I guess, to start as soon as possible because we have operations active here in Estonia and start listing some regulated assets through Montenegro. That might be possible. And I'm kind of having internal discussions about whether we do that or not now. But yeah, probably the official announcement might not even happen until June. We'll have to see. When will I be able to invest in assets in the sandbox? Well, as soon as the sandbox goes live. So that depends. Like I said, CoinMetro may go at it alone just to do some secondary market on some already existing STOs that need secondary market exposure. Haven't started those talks, but will as soon as we get that letter from the CMA making it official, because we'll use that letter in our talks. So yeah, latest I would say was probably going to be June, but it could happen before that. All right, guys, we're coming up on the hour. I think it was a pretty good show this week. Covered a lot of different topics. Some decent news stories. Nothing impressive, but some interesting tidbits of news there, I think, this week. So yeah, guys, if you have any questions, shoot them out, and we'll wrap it up. As always, you can tag me. Are you satisfied with the CSD's devs now working for CoinMetro, and what have they done so far? Yeah, look, right now they're working on they retooled, rehashed, redid, reprogrammed, recalculated, recoded, cleaned up all the front end code inside of our Go dashboard. And now they're working on a dashboard redux, which is a completely redesign of the dashboard. They will move, then they're going to move on to deposit and withdrawal flows and probably TRAM as well. So that's what they've been working on. Yes, so far so good. They're very well organized. They work well with our team. They're on task, and generally, yeah, so far so good. Thanks for your time. Thank you, Ginger Croc, for showing up. Any more updates on dashboard updates? No updates as of yet. I think we're a week or two away from, I know we're about 2 weeks behind schedule on the dashboard, but with everybody having to work from home, setting up VPNs, et cetera, obviously it gets slowed down a bit. And as well with the development provider or the company we use for development. Increased leverage. Yep, that's actually in Oliver's famous to-do list right now that has all these things from the survey. I think it's number 1 on the to-do list, and it's in progress. Maybe you can add some coin names like Bitcoin or something to allow people to find this video better. Yeah. To be honest, I'm not a hashtag guy. I'm not a I think I was actually thinking when I was typing out the title today before I launched the thing, This Week in Crypto, I literally was thinking the same thing. So now that we have head of content coming in next Monday, we have Morteza in marketing. He's obviously overwhelmed right now getting everything ready for the main marketing campaign, but this is something we've also discussed. All this stuff is going to get fine-tuned, guys. But yes, great idea and definitely something that we've shared internally. And Bjorn seems like he didn't make it today, so don't know what to think about that. We might have to send Bjorn a gift basket or something with some Purell and a face mask. Thank you, Musab, for showing up. Thank you, everybody, for coming in, asking your questions. This show wouldn't be a show without questions, without you guys, so appreciate it. Appreciate everybody's support, continued support, ongoing support. We're basically a family now. We've been together longer than some families, actually. So have a great weekend. Tag me on Telegram at Kevin Murcko. Tag me at Twitter at Kevin Murcko. Tag me wherever you want to tag me. I'll try to answer any questions you may have. And have a great weekend. Don't look at price, as I always say. And of course, what else do you possibly have to do this weekend aside from buying some XCM? Have a great weekend, guys. If you can't spend time with your friends and family, Zoom time, Skype time, WhatsApp time, WeChat time. Use any one of the many services that are all broken and all have probably surveillance and leaks built right into them to say hi to your families. Put a smile on somebody's face. And see you guys next week. Cheers. Have a great weekend, guys.